was not ready for season 2, episode 4 of Paradise. Annie, a fan favorite, dies during childbirth, and emotionally, that alone wrecked me. But once I wiped my tears and I rewatched the episode, I realized something very important. This episode wasn't just tragic, it was strategic. Because beneath all the grief, this episode quietly dropped more evidence that we are not watching a normal timeline. Whether it's time travel, a multiverse, or some kind of quantum experiment tied to Sinatra's Project Alex, something bigger is happening here. And if you felt a little lost, you are not alone. Today, I'm breaking down 5 clues that you missed that may be the key to unlocking the biggest mysteries of this season. And after we break those down, I'm going to talk about a few things that make absolutely no sense to me in this episode. But before we get started, let me introduce myself if you're new here. And if you're not new here, then welcome back. My name is Brandy, and I realize that you could be on any channel in the world, but you're right here with me, and I really do appreciate that. So please go ahead and like this video. It really does help the channel out, and I greatly appreciate it. And also subscribe to the channel if you do enjoy watching TV show reviews and also movie reviews. Now, the first clue that I'll talk to you about is Annie's beautiful letter to her baby daughter. Now, we witnessed Annie going into labor at the Waffle Diner. We saw Xavier. He ran off to a nearby house, and he was successfully able to go gather people to help out, and he was also able to gather supplies for the childbirth. However, while Xavier was gone, Annie, she struggled because she was in so much pain. Her contractions were full on, and she struggled to grab a red crayon, and she used a menu from the waffle restaurant to write a letter to her unborn baby.
Give it to her. When she's old enough.
And this is what the letter said. I'll pop it up on the screen, actually. The clue in this letter that really stood out to me and told me that we are dealing with some type of time travel or multiverse theme in season 2 is where she said, "I trust that love travels across death, across time, and it bridges impossible distances and binds people who've never known each other." What if Annie's belief isn't just poetic? What if it's literal? If love can travel across time, if people can be bound without ever meeting, then maybe this season isn't just about survival. Maybe it's about connection across different timelines. And maybe Annie's death isn't the end of her story. Maybe this is just the version that we're seeing right now. Now, the second clue, which is a big one for me, is I feel like we saw an entirely different Link on this episode. And we saw him use 2 cultural references correctly. The first one was when his partner came up to him where he was sleeping.
Cinderella, time to wake up.
Snow White. She was just a sleeping one.
And the second reference that he made was when he was at the bunker doors with his crew and he was holding up the note cards. And one of them said something to the effect of, "Sorry to love actually you." I'm like, huh? Is this the same Link? Remember on season 2, episode 1, when Annie was dropping different cultural references, Link had no idea what she was talking about. So how is it that all of a sudden Link is familiar with rom-com quotes and Disney movie characters? I'm like, this is a completely different Link. Also, I thought he was a stark contrast from the Link that we met in season 2, episode 1, because he seemed so aggressive in this episode. When he went to that bunker door, Link wanted all the smoke. He was ready for action. And that to me just wasn't the Link that we really met in episode 1. So we're not seeing the same version of Link in this episode. And that really lends itself to maybe a different timeline or a different multiverse. And clue number 3 is when Xavier saw Link's ID. We saw that Link's ID, it dropped out of Annie's belongings, and Xavier picked it up and he looked at the ID and said, "Is this him?" But you saw when Xavier looked at the ID, you could tell that Link is a familiar face to him. And then we saw that Xavier had another vision of Link. Then Xavier goes on to tell Annie that he has these memories of things that never actually happened. And at that point, Annie just told him, like, "Listen, you probably have a concussion from the plane crash." She wrote it off. She didn't think anything of it, or did she? Because if you noticed in this episode, every time Annie spoke about Link, she did not mention his name, not even once. Even when she was handing Xavier the letter that she wrote to her baby daughter when she was dying, and she said, "You are the only one that could do this. This is your holy charge." She never mentioned Link's name specifically. And I thought that was so odd, because if you want somebody to go find somebody for you, the first thing you would mention is their name. Like, hey, when you go to Colorado, say, "Hey, does anybody know Link?" I know the writers did that intentionally for a reason that hopefully we will find out very soon. Now, the fourth clue, which is a significant one, is when Annie mentioned that about 6 months ago, she saw a huge tornado about the size of the city. And I think that clue was important enough that Xavier, we see him at the end of this episode, he repeated what he heard from Annie about the tornadoes to the woman that actually helped out with the childbirth. So I think the writers are very intentional with including tornadoes in this storytelling, because we know that scary, significant storms, especially tornadoes, they're deeply tied to time travel and multiverse tropes in storytelling. And it's not because of real science, but because of symbolism and because of cinematic language. And the most famous example that we all probably know is the Wizard of Oz. We see that Dorothy is literally transported to another world by a tornado. The storm is the mechanism that moves her from one reality to another. So hopefully we get to see more of these storms just tearing reality open and transporting people to different realities. And clue number 5. Now, this one is sort of a cheat code that I always use when I'm watching complicated shows such as Paradise. The recap or the previously on Paradise part that they show right before the episode comes on. Now, in this previously on clip, we saw that they really focused on time. We see that Sinatra, she's talking to Gabriella, and she mentions the word time at least 2 or 3 times. Now, go back and watch that recap and you'll see exactly what I'm referring to. And this is intentional. We know that the editors and the writers, they aren't randomly choosing what recap they want us to focus on. They're very intentional with what they want us to see. And I also think that they wanted to remind us of Sinatra's son, which, as I mentioned on my previous Paradise video that covered episodes 1 through 3, I mentioned that Sinatra's motivation behind Project Alex is that A, she wants to save the world, and B, that she wants to bring her son Dylan back. She wants to go back in time and prevent his death. So again, just that recap before this episode came on was very telling. Now let's talk about some questions I have after watching this episode. My first question being, why didn't Annie tell Xavier sooner about her health condition? I really think that Xavier would have went scorched earth for Annie. I think that somehow, some way, with the very limited resources that he was able to find, I think that he would have been able to find her some medication. I think that somehow he would have been able to save her life if he had more time to plan. But that whole storyline also lends itself to time travel too, because maybe Annie isn't the one in control. Because we know from other time travel books and shows that sometimes it's somebody behind the scenes that's actually controlling a different timeline. So Annie's decision just makes me question, was that really Sinatra's work somehow, some way? Or did Annie just really not choose to tell Xavier because she didn't trust him just yet, and that she thought she could make it to Colorado, to the bunker, where she knew that there were resources and medical help that could help save her life? And speaking of Sinatra, I'm really curious if somehow they are planning on Sinatra attempting to redeem herself. Because listen, when she was with baby Calvin at the end of this episode, at first I'm like, oh my God, what is she about to do with the baby? Is she about to steal the baby? Is she about to give him a breath mint? Like, what is going to happen? But it turns out that she told baby Calvin, like, listen, I have a plan for you and I have a plan for the rest of us. So I'm thinking, like, Sinatra, does she have some redeeming qualities about her? Are they about to give us an episode or two where we really see things from Sinatra's perspective and we see the reasoning behind why she does certain things? I don't know. At this point, I really don't like her character. She's a villain of the show, obviously, but I have a feeling that they're going to do something very clever with her character arc. And my next question is about the bunker security. How in the world did they let Link and his crew get that close to the bunker? And how will they prevent Link and his crew from invading? And also, maybe that's another clue. Like, Link seems as if he had been there before. So I cannot wait to see how they'll prevent Link and his crew from invading the bunker. Or will Link and his crew be able to overpower them, since maybe they weren't expecting such a threat? And my last question has to do with Xavier's choice to bring the baby along with him to find Terry in Atlanta. I was just wondering, what would I have done if I was Xavier? Comment down below, what would you have done? Would you have taken the baby with you to travel by horse to Atlanta? Or would you have let the baby stay with the family that helped Annie actually give birth. I don't know at this point. I'm still contemplating. Like, I really like Xavier's decision for him, but for me as a woman, I think that I would have had to leave that baby behind where I know the baby will be safe, and I would have made sure that I will come back for that baby after I got Terry. So I would have got Terry, I would have went back, got the baby, and then we all would have headed to the bunker to safety. If Terry is alive, that is. One last thing here. Can we please learn more about Terry and her occupation? I really want to know more about what she does, because I can't help to think that she has something to do with Project Alex as well, but it could be unknowingly. But nonetheless, guys, so much fun chatting with you all. Please put your clues down below. Tell me your theories, your thoughts, your questions as well. You guys stay safe out there, and I will see you on the next video. Peace.